Hi, ladies. I hope you are all having a great day today. And I just want to say hello and thank you all for those of you who are joining me for today's live topic: why stress is keeping you sick and heavy and what to do about it. And as busy women entrepreneurs, I'm pretty sure a lot of us have some stress in our lives, maybe a little too much stress in our lives. And who couldn't use some help trying to figure out what to do with it, right? Because and I'm going to get into a lot of what the body does with stress, but the short version is it doesn't just roll off your back like we wish it would, right? I mean, our bodies have a way of handling stress, and it's basically, unless you have a way to release the stress, it's going to be causing you problems. So I'm going to go into some of that today, but first I want to talk about why this is a particularly important issue to me, and possibly to a lot of you women who have busy careers, family lives, and all of the rest. For me personally, I spent a lot of years in chronic stress and not realizing it, thinking this is just the way life is, right? I mean, life is stressful. You have a job, you have kids, you have a family, you have whatever. And sometimes it's a really stressful job. And of course, I put a lot of pressure on myself, so that makes things even more stressful. And I thought, well, okay, adulting means being stressed. So, I worked out, I ate relatively healthy, but I still, the weight of the stress on me, I didn't realize that's what it was, but it was. Because what happens is, now everyone's body is different, but your body doesn't just release stress by itself. It needs an outlet. It needs a way to get it out, because what happens is, when you're stressed, a lot of you have heard the whole fight or flight analogy. When you're stressed, your body is saying, okay, all other functions stop, because we need a huge energy spike to take care of the life-threatening whatever it is that's coming your way. So it could be the lion, the tiger, the bear. Oh my, it could be whatever it is. It's coming your way. Your body's like, all right, I'm going to give you a boost of energy. I'm going to give you a cortisol shot to take care of whatever it is you need to do. You're going to run away from the stressful situation, because back when the stressful situation was an animal trying to eat us, that is what we needed to do in order to respond to the threat. So we get this spike. Our adrenals release cortisol into our body. It gives it this energy spike to handle the stress, and that's why when you get stressed, a lot of times you're hyped up. Well, the problem with that is that your body then shuts off everything else. It shuts off all non-essential happenings in your body at that time. So, for example, digestion. You don't need digestion to run away from the tiger, so your digestion stops. And when your digestion stops, that means that all of the things that your body needs to do to move the food through your system so that it can absorb the nutrients, and so it's not sitting as a lump in your stomach, I'd say gathering dust, but actually eating a hole in your stomach, then that's a problem, right? So if you're under chronic stress, your body's normal functionings aren't happening. And one of the other important things that isn't happening is your normal maintenance cycle. So I talk a lot about detoxing and detoxification and detoxing your body. Well, part of the reason for that is that your body has a natural detoxification system. It's naturally on this normal maintenance cycle where it takes care of things, right? It gets rid of all the toxins in our bodies. It goes through, the immune system goes through and cleans up any threats that would compromise your immune system. It's normally cleaning all this stuff up, but when we add this toxic load on it, and stress is another toxin, it's just as bad, if not worse, for us than the gluten, the dairy, and the sugar that I'm always talking about. When you add that other toxin to your body system and basically put that stressor on your system, the stress is the stressor for your system. It's not doing its normal maintenance work. So all the things that your body needs to do to have a good functioning body, so it's not all gunked up. I mean, think about a car, right? If you don't change the oil in your car, the car gets gunked up and it stops working. That's essentially what's happening to your body when we're under all this stress, because your normal maintenance cycle isn't happening to clear things out. So it just sits there and gets gunked up until something happens, right? Something happens. You get kidney stones, you get, God forbid, a heart attack, cancer. All these things can start because we're not letting our body do its normal maintenance cycle. Another one that I talk about a lot is inflammatory issues, autoimmune issues. So for me personally, because I was under this chronic stress and my body wasn't digesting my food, I got leaky gut. And what happens with leaky gut is that your the food is just sitting in your stomach and it's not getting digested, and so it starts to basically leak out of your stomach, leak out of your gut into the rest of your body, and then your immune system's going, oh, little things floating around in my body, let me go grab those, and it causes all this inflammation, which can cause you to be tired. It can cause you to have any number of symptoms that appear like something else. I mean, it could be migraines, it could be foggy headedness, it could be just general lethargy, it could be skin rashes, it could be acne, it could be skin tags, like little things that show up that you're just like, oh, that's kind of annoying, or things that are debilitating, like the migraines that I had. You know, your body is basically responding to what's happening inside of it because we aren't allowing it to do its normal job. So it's kind of a long preamble for why I am talking about this issue, but essentially it's so important because us allowing this stress to affect our bodies is keeping us heavy, because our bodies are holding on to stuff. It's not letting us, like I was working out 6 days a week and seeing no results because my body was like, we need to hold on to everything. There's Lord knows what's going to happen because you're so stressed out. Like, we're just going to hang on to it all. And then of course, like the migraines, the autoimmune issues, like all of these things, it's just keeping us in this cycle of not feeling as good as we could, as well as, how do you say this? We're not feeling great. Okay. Which is not funny, but apparently I don't speak English. So that's funny. So the question is, what are the actual, let me give you some facts here, right? I have this list of facts of what stress is doing to us. And here's the other thing. It affects women in different ways than it affects men. Men's bodies handle stress differently. So there was this American Heart Association study done in 2010 about women who had a lot of job strain. So those of us who have our own jobs, that's a little bit of a strain, right? We're only in charge of our entire future. They faced a 40% increase in cardiovascular disease overall. Hi, Kathy. Good to see you. So women who have stressful jobs, like with women entrepreneurs, have a 40% increase of cardiovascular disease and an 88% increase in risk for heart attacks. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm getting like chills right now because that's some crazy science. We are going to talk about how to handle the stress, or in better words, how to release the stress. But let me just continue to go through some of these facts with you. Women are twice as likely to suffer from severe stress and anxiety as men. Gee, I don't know why. I don't know, maybe it's because we have a lot more jobs to do, or because we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. But the other thing is too, men are better at taking care of themselves, right? Like, they don't necessarily put themselves last on the priority list like we women tend to. We're always taking care of everybody else. There's the kids, there's the parents, there's the friends, everybody else gets a front seat on the bus except for us. We put ourselves way in the back, if we're even on the bus or on the list, and we don't really take notice of the warning signs. Like I was saying earlier, with some of my warning signs were obvious. It's like, hi, you're getting migraines all the time. Maybe you should take a look at what's happening in your body. Maybe you have a little bit too much stress you need to figure out how to deal with. And as a matter of fact, that's the whole reason I started yoga, because I was like, I gotta figure out a way to release all this stress because it's killing me. Maybe not as early as I should have figured it out, but eventually. Okay, so there's this book called Clean by Alejandro Junger. And it's funny because I have had this book for 10 years. My mom gave it to me 10 years ago, and I just randomly picked it up a few months ago. And I'm like, oh, this is a really good book. Funny how moms know. Mom, if you're watching this, yes, you were right. But that book says that the stressors of modern life are more toxic, if not as toxic, as some of the chemicals we're putting, surrounding ourselves with, either in our bodies, on our bodies, in the air, whatever. That stress is just as toxic as some of these chemicals because of what I described earlier. Sorry. Somebody's trying to call me. But stress is just as toxic, if it's not as toxic, as some of these chemicals we're putting in our bodies. There was this article that Harvard Publishing published a few years ago, actually just 2018, so a year and a bit ago. They found that people who were diagnosed with a stress-related disorder, were more likely to be diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, which is what I was talking about earlier, right? The way that our bodies handle the stress is it has all these crazy things that it does. But like for me, it was leaky gut. For some people, it could be IBS. It could be Crohn's. It could be just a variety of different things. It could be Hashimoto's. It could be all these skin issues. I mean, the list goes on and on about the autoimmune. But so people who were stressed were more likely to be diagnosed with autoimmune disease, were more likely to develop multiple autoimmune diseases, right? Because sometimes if it's just too much, your body's going to move on to the next area to try to. It's basically it's reacting for you. It's trying to get rid of what it is, but it's doing it by causing all this inflammation, and had a higher rate of autoimmune diseases overall. Stress is killing us, people. We need to figure out a way to either not have it in our lives or how to release it. But like as I mentioned earlier, the cortisol levels are what's the problem when you're in a state of chronic stress and you have these continually high cortisol levels. Your body doesn't know how to de-stress. And we get to the point where it's just always on this high state of alert. And it's not letting your body's natural detoxification systems, natural processes to happen. And so then it just starts to shut down because it doesn't know what else to do. Here's the other thing, is that a lot of these problems get worse over time. And so I know that for some of us, me included, we tend to just try to ignore stuff, right? We try to sweep it under the rug and just, it'll go away or it'll get better. And the problem is it doesn't get better. It gets worse. These chronic diseases get worse if we don't handle them. Like my leaky gut was not going to get better on its own. It got to the point where I couldn't eat it. There was almost nothing I could eat. I mean, I couldn't eat any of the normal foods that I normally ate. I couldn't eat onions. I eat onions and everything. I couldn't eat nuts. Nuts are in everything. I couldn't have black tea. Like I drank black tea every morning. Like there was a huge list of things I could not do because my body was like done. My body was done. And if I hadn't done anything, I mean, I would have been living on like rice and water or who knows. And the other problem is that we tend to, if we are going to a doctor, right? Modern medicine these days, it's all about prescribing. It's not about finding the root cause of things. It's about band-aiding it. So, and it's not like I don't believe in modern medicine. I absolutely do. Modern medicine is great when it comes to, you have a broken bone, they can fix it. You need surgery, they can fix it. But it's usually that when you get to that point, it's like the last step. There are so many steps we can take before that to take care of ourselves prior to needing that level of medical intervention. And because the problem is right now, doctors aren't treated with nutrition, or they aren't trained with nutritional, they're not trained in nutrition. I can't talk today. They are not trained in nutrition. So they just tend to give us prescriptions, right? And they're just going to write an RX and here you go, here are your pills. Well, I don't know if you've seen any of those commercials lately about prescription drugs. They're like, oh yeah, you can take this. It'll make you feel so much better. But by the way, you're going to have all these like 100 other side effects from this. Oh, but you could have a heart attack, or you could get cancer, or you could get an ulcer. It's like these Band-Aids is what these pills are. They're causing other problems in our system. It's not actually fixing the problem. It's just masking the problem. So that is why stress is so bad for our bodies. Now, the big question here is, okay, great, Claudine. We know stress sucks. We know it's terrible for us, but we're stressed. What do we do about it? Okay, I have a few tips for you here. The first one is to give yourself some space. And I know that is hard to do because I find it hard myself. And I have a coach, and my coach is like, Claudine, you're a little too hard on yourself. You need to give yourself some time and space. And I'm like, where am I going to find the time? But I have to, right? It's self-care is important, not just because it sounds great and it's like, oh, I do my self-care routine. It's because it's almost like, what's the word? It's like you need it to survive. It's a survival mechanism. Self-care isn't like some fluffy, oh, I should just do it because it sounds like a great idea and I love yoga. It's like, no, you need it to survive, and you need it to be able to create a healthy, long-lasting life. Because what's the way a lot of us are treating ourselves now, we're treating ourselves in a way that our bodies are going to start shutting down, and we're going to have to get some huge wake-up call before we actually take the symptoms seriously, before we take the what our body's trying to tell us seriously. And I don't want you all to end up in the hospital with, kidney stones or some kind of autoimmune issue that's gotten out of hand before you actually take care of this. So one, self-care is serious business, okay? If you need someone to tell you that this is your homework assignment for the week, then I am here to tell you, do your self-care routine. And that could be anything, right? It could be that you spend the evening in a jacuzzi just chillaxing. It could be taking a bath. It could be going to yoga. It could be reading. It could be doing your meditation, your mindset work. Whatever self-care means to you, it could be taking a nice walk out in nature. Nature is really nice. And depending where you are, it could smell really good too. Like if you're in the forest, nature smells great. I don't know about where I live or where you live, but some places nature smells really great. So taking the time to do your self-care routine is so important. The other thing I see women reducing, I guess, on the priority level scale is the need for sleep. And it seems like everyone's like, oh, I can get by on 6 hours. I can get by on 7 hours. Your body can't get by on 6 or 7 hours. It is a very, very rare person, like some ridiculously small number of the population, that actually can survive on fewer than 8 hours of sleep per night. Okay. Now, if you've read Arianna Huffington, she has a whole book on like her huge lifestyle change that occurred because she was not giving herself enough sleep and she just basically crashed. And for her, it took this huge wake-up call where she was in the hospital and stitches and all the whole thing before she realized, maybe the sleep is actually a kind of a cool thing I should be doing with my life. Yes, it's a third of your day, but it is a really important part of your day because, again, it's allowing your body to do its normal processes. It needs that time, that 8-hour span of time to actually regroup, reset, get your cells back in order, get everything basically like it needs that time to prepare for the next day and to allow your body needs it, period. Okay. Whether you like sleep or not, whether you think you can't sleep. Now, if you can't sleep, that's probably a toxic load issue, which is a whole nother story, or a hormonal issue, also another story. But the point is you should be at least setting yourself up to get 8.5 hours of sleep per night, because it takes if you're getting a good amount of sleep, it takes about 20 to 30 minutes to fall asleep. So to get 8 hours, you need to be in bed with your eyes closed 8.5 hours before your alarm's set to go off the next morning. So I cannot emphasize enough the importance of sleep. I'm sure there are a million more things I could say about it, but just take that for what it is. Give yourself some self-care and get some sleep. The third thing is, and I touched on this just like in a small sentence a minute ago, which is try not to be so hard on yourself. Which is one I have to remind myself of all the time. I'm giving you the advice I am giving to myself as well, because I'm living the same life, people. We as women entrepreneurs, we as go-getters, we ask a lot of ourselves, right? We are trying to get a lot done. We have a huge to-do list, and we're pissed off at ourselves when we don't get it done. We're also pissed off at ourselves usually when we're not taking care of ourselves like we should be, like the whole, self-care routine with the whole eating clean. Like we all need to take care of ourselves, but we also need to not be as hard on ourselves. Like I'll give you an example. Last night I got home from, I had a day of work and I got home from yoga and I had a list of things to do, but I was tapped out. And normally I would have pushed through it and I would have continued to do whatever I needed to do. But I was tired and I said, you know what? I'm actually going to give myself this time to go to sleep. Which for me is like, I'm sorry, my nose itches. For me is like a huge breakthrough. And I encourage all of you to have similar breakthroughs, to give yourself a break every once in a while, not to beat yourself up for, I don't know, needing a night off maybe, or for not getting everything done on your to-do list, not meeting all your goals, because you probably, if you're like me, you probably set really high goals for yourself and you set real high standards for yourself and you want to get it all done. Well, sometimes that's not possible. And it's not that you haven't tried your best. It's just sometimes that's the way life works. Sometimes there's a lesson we need to learn in it, or sometimes it's just, we need to change our tactics. There's something we need to learn. And it's okay. It is okay if you are not a rock star killing it every single day, okay? It is all right. And again, I'm telling you this as much as I am telling myself this. So that's my third point. The fourth point is sometimes you just need to talk to someone, whether it's a friend, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a coach. For myself, I surround myself with mentors who hold me accountable to this kind of stuff because I know it's my Achilles heel. I know that not taking care of myself, not prioritizing my self-care routine, not prioritizing giving myself a break every once in a while, that is the thing that could hold me back if I let it. So I surround myself with people who remind me, hey, Claudine, maybe you should give yourself a break. Or, hey, Claudine, maybe you shouldn't be so hard on yourself. Or, hey, have you been doing your self-care routine? I know how much better you feel when you meditate in the morning. So I have a mastermind partner. I have a coach. I have a mentor. I have people who constantly remind me of what it is I need to be reminded of, because as we all know, it's so much easier to see things from an outside perspective than from an inside perspective. So those are my tips to you. I hope it was useful. I encourage you all to find ways to release the stress in your lives because it is killing us from the inside out if we let it. It's keeping us heavier than we need to be. It is disabling our body's ability to function, which is causing a whole host of issues. So the faster we can take care of this and start working on it, the better off we will be, the better off we will feel. So I hope that was helpful. Drop me a line in the comments. Tell me what you got out of this. If you're watching this on the replay, put hashtag replay. And I look forward to hearing from you all. I hope you have a great, fantastic rest of your day. Take care. Bye.